Roll call.
Melissa Mushik,
Here.
Henry Corbin,
Here.
Dane Nielsen,
Here.
Jason Sampson,
Here.
Steve Skaggs.
Here.
Andy's gone.
Can I get approval of the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second. Jason and Henry? Steve, sorry. Yeah. Good vote on that. Here is this on the screen.
Pop up
On
here.
the screen. This doesn't pop up.
Being really slow. So sorry.
Right.
I guess. You need to get some Jeopardy music.
Fast, we're good.
It approved. Public hearings. Public hearing for a rezoning of 636th Street. Is anyone here to talk in the public hearing? Nothing, we'll move on to, oh, we do have, sorry, I didn't see him.
Hi, Brian.
Hi.
I'm Kathy Solko, Modernock, and I live at 717 Fifth Street. Thank you, Melissa, for getting back to me with that question. I appreciate your answer. I wish to reiterate my and our concerns regarding the rezoning of the property at 636th Street and the adjacent parking lots to multifamily residential with the prospect of 60 rental units. I and others have expressed that our neighborhood cannot abide by 60 more rental units when there are a plethora of rentals on the 6th, 5th, and 4th Street corridors. There is simply not enough room on that property at 636th Street for 60 more units. I've talked to people who have worked there. I've been in that hospital. I understand from the planning and zoning that there are federal guidelines on how big apartments units need to be. They're going to be this big. They're going to be very, very small. If the applicants with that planning and zoning application are going to be good stewards in Nevada, why would they say, quote, parking in lots and on the street when that clearly does not meet with our city code? They put that in the application. I said at the planning and zoning meeting that the traffic on 5th Street is heavy and fast as drivers avoid the stop signs on 6th Street. And at that meeting, people were going, yep, and there are people tonight going like that. It's like a thoroughfare up to Lincoln Way. The possibility of adding 60 more vehicles, 60 units, however many vehicles they have, it's frightening to me because I have watched a neighbor child almost get hit on that street. Then public storage, why public storage? That wasn't even talked about in that first meeting. When we came to this council meeting in May of 2023, there was nothing about public storage. That will only add to the traffic and it will add to the congestion, the comings and goings. More than 2 years ago at that meeting in May of 2023, a neighbor who is currently out of state brought up at the council meeting the question of green space and play area for residents. And we all understand that there's no site plan yet. That building is huge. There's not much green space on that property. At that time, the answer was that the fairgrounds is only 2 blocks away. Kind of makes sense. However, having kids cross 5th Street on a regular basis to go down to the fairgrounds to play is ludicrous. I wouldn't want my child doing it. I wouldn't want my grandchild. It's unsafe. Also, earlier this month, the Fair Board posted a notice on social media asking residents to, quote, refrain from sledding or engaging in winter sports on the fairgrounds. It was a notice to, quote, remember, the fairgrounds are private property. Is it realistic to expect the Fair Board to be in agreement with residents of these apartments using their private property as a city park? You know, many of us have become resigned that this is going to happen. It is, we know that. It's going to happen in some form. How is it that you, the city, the developer and the builder can respect the people and the property that are already there? With a significant reduction in units, and maybe without that public, whatever, however they're going to do it, public underground climate controlled storage, I think is the way it was worded. Or possibly other modifications, maybe you can demonstrate some of that respect to us. We need information. We need information without having to dig through council meeting notes for hours at a time. Someone needs to talk to us. We need to see some site plans, and I understand, I've gone through the process with a couple of people already, talked about it, that those site plans aren't done. So what if we miss that? What if people miss that meeting? I mean, how many of us now are already watching for every council meeting so that we know what's going on? I was appreciative that I could reach out to my council person yesterday and got a very prompt response. And I thank you for that. Rather than minimizing our concerns, which has been done in this room on a couple of occasions, talk to us, give us a chance and the information we need to support the project.
Jordan, how time sensitive is this ordinance?
Andy did have a question as well.
Oh, Andy.
Well, I mean, you could follow up with hers first if you want.
Well, I'm just asking a general question.
Okay.
For myself, so.
Just questions, I haven't really found out.
Okay.
Andy Kelly, 13-124. I've kind of been watching it, I just like to know that I've got it right. This is an out-of-state owner, correct?
Yeah, from what I know from the applicant is like the address is Georgia.
And an out-of-state developer?
I
Does he
think-
live in Iowa, Brenda? No? I know he has locations that he's developed in Iowa, but I
Right.
don't believe he personally lives in Iowa.
And they bought it for $1?
I don't know that. I don't know the answer.
That's what it shows on Beacon is free, but I don't think they can transfer for free.
Oh, from Story County. Yeah.
So on the purchase, do you know if there was a minimum assessed valuation on it? Are they paying taxes on $1 for the
They-
first year? And then it goes up?
They will be paying taxes. That was one of the things that they had to discuss with the assessor. Originally, they thought that they were going to be able to get away from paying taxes, but they did find out by the assessor that the assessor told them, no, you are going to be paying taxes on it. I do not know what those taxes are, because we have not entered into a development agreement for that. That is something that we have been discussing. We may not have to enter into a development agreement because of how our urban revitalization plan is set up and how it's written. So they would have a TIF agreement on there, and it would be a sliding scale, but they will be paying taxes for that property. And I believe the reason that it transferred for the $1 was, one, they have to show that they paid for it, but two, the cost of demoing it would have been far more expensive than.
I get that, and I'm not worried about $1 compared to $0. I assumed it was $1 for that, that it had to be something in kind of consideration. But I assume they can talk to the county, but without a minimum assessed valuation, generally you pay taxes on purchase price the first year and then assessed after that. And it's been declared a liability. My guess is that, guess, we don't know, but I'm guessing there'll be an abatement on the development. Will it be the standard about a 3-year, or are we looking at
It'll
extended?
be,
for?
I believe with that type of thing, we were talking a 10-year, 100% for the first year and then sliding down to 0%.
With a minimum assessed valuation in that for a 10-year.
I would like to do a minimum assessment because that captures a little bit higher typically. I'm hesitant to say an amount. I mean, it would be nice to be a.
The
large
county
figure.
had, yeah, the county had, and that's kind of where my concern is. The county had that valued in excess of $1 million estimated, but not collected on, it's county property. So even though they bought it for $1, it'd be nice to know that they paid the initial estimated from the county and the improvements. My worry is with it being out of state purchased for $1, abatement on the improvements and an unknown assessment based on what they're appealing. I'd like to see us collect a lot in taxes, because if it's a $500 a month apartment, which is tough to do on 60 units, that's $360,000 a year strip mined from the community and sent out of state. Anything over $500 a month is more. We're looking at $500,000 a year leaving the state. So if we were looking at leaving the state, not just the town, leaving the state, if we were looking at $1 million to tear it down, but $500,000 a year cash gone, tearing it down and selling an empty lot becomes a little bit more palatable of a solution. It's a lot of money in rent to an out-of-state agency every single year in perpetuity, especially with a 10-year abatement and an unknown purchase valuation. So I don't have anything else.
Anyone?
I guess I'm kind of thinking back to,
Oh, sorry, sir. I didn't see it.
Dean Rogers, I live at 616 Fifth Street, which is right across the street from the west. These are some facts that he brought up now, Kelly, that I wasn't aware of, so I'm glad I'm here to hear some of that. But of course, my concern living there is it's going to surround me, and the lot that used to be used during the day for parking will be 24, 7 days a week, coming and going, and not counting the street and the rest of the parking. And that's one of my main concerns, is that's going to devalue my property for people if they want to put up with that next to their house. But now when you're talking to 60 units, what I'm trying to figure out, and we talked about this at the last meeting, you have to have more than one space available per apartment for vehicles. You can't have one parking spot for each unit. You have to have 2 or 2.5.
2.5.
2.5.
2.5 parking spaces, so you can't, so now you're looking at a whole lot different amount of parking space there than this 60 units or 60 cars. Do you know where I'm coming from? So how are you gonna do this in all those cars in the lots and on the streets? And even, because there's not too many people don't have 2 cars.
We did talk with them about the parking in the beginning, and we did tell them and require them that they will need to be providing off-street parking, that they will not be allowed to park on the street, that their tenants will not be. So that's something that Ryan has been discussing with them and coming up with a parking plan to provide the off-street parking with them, or for their tenants.
But where can it come from?
What we have discussed is carving into the current right of way and have diagonal parking off of, what streets am I thinking of?
F Avenue, G Avenue,
F, G,
and Fifth Street
5th Street. Yeah,
along their, the property that they own. So the off-street parking would be the angled parking similar to what we have on Sixth Street currently. So as well as, along the property that they own, where the, parking lots are, doing off-street parking along there. And then kind of redoing, the parking lot itself to allow more parking in it. Some of that can be cleaned up. So the lines that are marked there now aren't very well organized. So those can be cleaned up to include a couple more views.
There wouldn't be too many more, because I know just from living there, I mean, you get parking spots, you gotta have it wide enough for it to be able to park and be able to get out of your vehicle. You can't
Yeah.
just sandwich them in there.
Yeah, no, there's a standard size, 19 feet long by, I wanna say it's 9.5 feet wide, something like that.
Mhm.
So, nope, been using the grid system on the overlays, things like that.
Is there anything more said about the old ambulance shed? What that's gonna be used for, or tore down, or
The
building
shed
on the parking
the
lot, what I mean,
on the north side of the west.
Yes.
west
on the
parking
west
lot,
side of the
you're
street,
talking about?
yeah.
I don't know.
It hasn't come up in conversation
Yeah.
yet. I'd like for them to take it down and put up a small shed used for storing salt, snow removal equipment, things like that. But you can add 4 more parking stalls where that garage currently sits. So creating options.
What happens to the big generator?
The big generator is being removed. Yes, as well as the fuel tank and things like that. They've sold that. The decommission of that should start when it gets a little warmer. So it'll be trucked and craned out of here.
So how long before we know what, with the rules and regulations, how many actual apartments would be able to go in that unit?
With their site plan submittal, I'm hoping for it in the next week or so. But honestly, the square footage of that entire property would allow for 60 units pretty easily if you include the old clinic area, things of that nature. So it just kind of depends on where they want to place these units.
And
things like
Ryan,
that. Yeah.
do you remember the number? I believe over half of them will be studio bedroom apartments.
Yeah.
7 of them will be 2-bedroom apartments. But a majority of them will be studio and 1-bedroom apartments. So the studio will be smaller.
Yeah.
Smaller square footage.
So, and so, I mean, that comes back to me is, like you say, if there's that many available, the parking is gonna be all around, and I mean, there are other units around us, where are those people gonna park too? I mean, there's right across the street to the south. And there's no parking along that street on one side. 6th Street in front of me, there's no parking on the west side. So I mean, it's gonna jam things up pretty tight.
Yeah, and that's why we wanted them to do the off-street parking. That way it didn't conflict with any other traffic on 6th Street or F and G or 5th Street as well. We wanted to make sure that they knew that off-street parking was a requirement for this facility.
But if it's they're just gonna make, like on the west side of the building there by the clinic,
Mhm.
you consider that off-street parking uses a start because it's on an angle?
Yeah, yes, sir. Those would be considered off-street parking, the ones that are already existing on the west side on 5th Street. Those are off-street parking. They cut into the right of way and they would continue that going north. And it'd be similar to what's on the south side where that's cut out, just south of the clinic, the old clinic. That would continue going to the east towards 6th Street. The big thing that I'm pushing them to do is to only do off-street parking surrounding their property. I don't want them cutting up everybody else's right of way in order for them to park. So we're keeping it to their properties and stuff like that. So.
Okay, I get,
Ryan,
Yeah.
there are 2 loading docks currently, are both of those loading docks going to remain, do you know?
I'm unsure at this time. If they take them down, there could be more adjustment for parking. I don't see the need to keep them, you know.
Well, but if you're talking underground public storage,
Yeah,
would that speak to that the one loading dock? Maybe it's too early.
it's a little too early, but at the same time, when speaking with them, the storage that would be set aside for people outside of who live there to use that is only maybe 5 to 10 units. The majority of it's set up for the people that reside there. And as it was explained to me over one of the last corresponding emails. So I don't know why they're opening it up to the public, I'll be honest with you. It's still baffled.
That was not in the original proposal that we saw
Oh,
in 23.
yeah,
The what? Sorry.
open to the public
Oh,
storage
but-
underneath.
No, it wasn't. I
Yeah.
think that was fairly new. They've been trying to figure out what they wanted to do with that underground area. Originally, they were planning on having just strictly storage for the tenants. And then there was also a talk about having additional rooms, but if they did that, then they would have to create a lot more egress windows. And that would have made it more expensive and ineffective for them. So that is fairly new, is the underground storage. And that's why it wasn't in the original plan.
Does R3 zoning allow for storage in like a for sale capacity outside of like,
Does R3 allow that?
yeah, if we're rezoning it to that?
We're rezoning it to R4 to make it
R4.
multifamily. And discussing with Aaron, the issue I was having was like the majority of our zoning still vertical, right? Like you cross from one house to the next, things of that nature. The storage available is common with multifamily units. There's a couple, fourplexes, fiveplexes that have separate storage underneath for them. It was opening it to the public that I was a little baffled by. But the storage under there isn't the same storage that's kind of in our ordinance. Our ordinance storage that we have reference to and things like that is for the ones that we have like by the railroad tracks and stuff like that, the outdoor storage that requires parking and access and things like that. So this is kind of not uncharted waters, but it's a bit different. And so I'm trying to navigate through that, I guess, if that makes sense.
Because the current ordinance says one parking space per 20 storage units.
That's correct. And that definition is for those outdoors,
storage.
those like outdoor storage ones, like whether they're, cold storage or warm storage or what have you, it's that outdoor parking spot for those 20 units, right? So this is a bit different. So we're gonna have to, once we see the site plan, we'll have to negotiate and come to an understanding on what we expect for it.
Don't you think we ought to see the site plan before we rezone it?
So that comes up a lot as well.
I think we're voting on something we haven't seen.
Regardless of rezoning the property, the site plan holds its own different weight. If we rezone it, we rezone it. It's not gonna adjust and or change what is required for the site plan, right? Like it's, in my opinion, it's apples, oranges. So,
Site plan requires separate approval.
yes, yep. Site plan is its own thing. So,
So just because we approve the zoning change doesn't mean that this particular units are going in there the way that they've asked. It's just we're getting it ready for a multifamily.
that's correct, yes.
Now, making this an R4, does that prohibit him from doing any type of building or changing of the parking lots in any other way other than a parking lot?
So I wanted to keep the parking lots associated with the property the best that I could, and rezoning them to R4 as well shrinks that building capacity. So my fear would be in, 10 years, they would sell a lot and then put up something else, right? If we rezone it to R4, that doesn't allow for commercial buildings or things of that nature to be built without a special use permit, in which then it would be checks and balances by the city. But, you know, if these folks so choose to do the work, they don't like what they see in returns and they sell the property, those parking lots are still associated with that. And someone else couldn't just pick apart the property as easily.
And even if that was the case, they would still have to meet the threshold for the parking if they did that.
Yes,
They technically wouldn't be
I-
able to
yeah,
sell it
I'm-
off and build something else because they would then not meet the parking threshold.
it would be a non-conforming, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes that does happen. We've got, for instances, around town. I'm just trying to keep it stuck together.
Anything else? Anyone else want to speak? Well, I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in here. I think that as much, I hate holding up development because I think we need it in this town pretty bad. But also I think we owe it to the people that live around, those that have spoke and those that haven't spoke, to give them a few more details. I think it's pretty unanimous from what everyone said, and I'm sure there's people out there that haven't said anything that they'd like to know a little more what's going on. I know we don't know a lot of that yet. Is that correct, Ryan? Am I taking that right? We don't know a lot what's going on with them yet? Like, we don't have a site plan, we
Yeah,
don't
no,
have,
no,
we
we don't
don't
have a
have a
site.
parking plan, we don't
Right,
have any
right.
of that.
We have an understanding, but we don't have it.
Yeah, so I don't know if that means we have a open meeting so everyone can come and see the plans when we do it. That's what I think. If I was sitting in that chair out there, that's what I'd want to do. I'd want to say, hey, can we at least see it and get everyone's 2 cents when everybody knows a little bit about what's going on. So that's what I propose. That's totally up to you.
There will have
You-
to be another open meeting for the site
So
plan.
basically what I'm saying, we're gonna have one anyway.
You are going to have one anyways.
Yeah, this,
Okay,
it kind of goes back to that we will still have
Yeah.
the ability to approve.
okay.
Or
Well,
not approve the site plans.
maybe I
So
got ahead of myself.
Even
but
if we
that's what
get-
I think.
so even if we go forward with this tonight,
Yeah.
it doesn't take.
No, I
away our
understand
ability
that.
to-
And we have 3 readings too.
Yeah, yep.
And this wouldn't be one that I would be in favor of.
Yeah,
Waiving
it's
reviews.
really a preliminary step because the developer isn't gonna wanna invest a whole lot of time in a site plan if they can't use it for their intended purpose.
Right.
So they need to know whether the zoning is gonna be approved, so they know whether or not to move forward with the site plan preparation.
At this point, there isn't any other purpose been discussed that this property be used for, correct? I mean, this is it, as far as we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the only ones so far that have had any
So
interest.
I
at
think
all.
we should go ahead and change the zoning so that they can proceed with their planning. And then obviously have some more discussions when the site plan comes along.
I believe I'd like to say something and after I'm gonna go ahead and vote on this.
We have your name and address, please.
James I. Meyer, Dorian Meyer, 622 Fifth Street,
Thank you.
Nevada. Gotta bear with me. Been an electrician all my life. I'm not a politician. I'm trying to save my home and our neighborhood. On January the 6th, a handful of people voted yes to rezone this. I was at the meeting. Okay? Someone posted on the internet. What does it matter to you? It's not in your backyard. Is this what they were thinking when they voted yes? It's not in their backyard? Or were they thinking about the taxes and the money off the water bill? Is this what we're gonna do? I mean, I know what's gonna happen if you rezone this. And I'm pretty sure you're probably going to. The decision will send our property values to the depth of somewhere near the Titanic. It'll make it impossible for us to sell our homes or our kids if they desire to. They said, why do you care? It's not in your backyard. In my backyard, I have an apartment building. This building you're discussing here tonight is 50 feet from my front door. 50 feet. 100 people, 100 vehicles, noise 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Fifth Street. Do we want Nevada to be known as the city with the most apartments? Or do we want Nevada to be known as a place a couple can buy a house, raise a family, send them to a fine school, have a backyard their kids can play in? What do we want Nevada to be known for? I think we have plenty of apartments, but I'm just one person. If you zone this multifamily dwelling, you will turn a corporate monster loose on our neighborhood. It will destroy our houses one at a time. Nobody will want to live there. I think we all know this. You had somebody vote for you and decide that they're going to put this 50 feet from your house. Would you vote yes? This is a neighborhood killer.
Sorry, Puff.
It's okay. It really is okay. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? Anyone? Council? That's it. We're gonna close that public hearing. And we're gonna go to ordinance number 1064, 2425, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Nevada, Iowa by rezoning the property at 636th Street from R3 Urban Family Dwelling District to R4 Multiple Family Dwelling District, first reading. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Steve? We have a second? Last call in a second.
I'll second it.
Dane?
Just want to share that,
Go ahead, discussion, more discussion, go ahead.
I don't know if Ryan's tired of me asking him or Jordan's tired of me asking him more, but that is something I'm watching very, very closely. Especially talking about parking on the streets. I will not allow that. That's just unacceptable in any way, shape or form. As far as how many units they can put in there, I'll be really curious to see. If they can fit 60 units in there with 30 of them being studio apartments, that'll be a nice feat. But it's definitely something I'm not just sleeping on and letting it just slide on through. It's something I spent a lot of time talking and making sure it's done correctly, because I wouldn't want that poorly positioned in our neighborhoods, as you've said. So I get it. I'm watching it.
Residential neighborhood.
I think something else to keep in mind is, so we don't vote to support this project. What happens then? What happens to this giant building in the neighborhood that sits there empty? No one can afford to tear it down. That sounds like a neighborhood killer. So I mean,
The city,
I think we have to keep in mind here, I would feel the same way you do. And I can absolutely sympathize with you, but
That's not gonna help me. It's not
I
gonna help my home values.
understand. I do, I really do. And
You know what it's gonna be like living next to this thing? Any
yeah,
idea?
I've
wired them for a living. I've seen them go up.
yeah. But we have to recognize here, this is a gift that someone wants to come in this thing and keep it up.
It's a gift, sir.
I appreciate that.
I see it as
I
a
do.
corporate monster living 50 feet from my house.
It's a Godzilla.
And it's out of state.
So to Steve's point, I guess I want to go back to that because I agree if we don't move forward in this direction, we very likely end up with an empty building, which is also going to do all the things that we're worried about, minus the traffic. But you're still going to have the decreased traffic values, et cetera. So at that point, it becomes a liability.
Code though.
What's
I mean,
that?
You can enforce that. You have a vacant building code. You don't end up with a vacant building. You've got a code to address that.
And then we have to spend taxpayer money on it.
Like I said, there's a lot of money leaving.
City park.
I also come at this from a position of I've actually had to vote to rezone the area behind my house so that Story Medical can move out where they are now. So I have increased lights behind my house, traffic, et cetera. So not to the level you're talking about, but I have been there and had to take that vote. So I just want to throw that out there too. I don't do this lightly. It does change things. It's just a matter of what you do with it going forward.
I think we can do something else besides what they're planning. There's gotta be something better than this in a residential neighborhood.
I'd be curious, so I've seen a lot of like renovations like this done really well. For example, like Roosevelt and Ames, it's done really well. It's not, an eyesore, it's not like what you're thinking, like a big industrial, residential building. I'm wondering if there's any examples of things that Capstone specifically has done that is like this? That we can see what is their quality, what is it
Yeah,
gonna
so
look like?
the architecture that's actually designing it has his own building. He renovated an old school. Was it Waterloo? Cedar Rapids, yeah, Cedar Rapids. And it looks really great. They did a great job and I can see if I can get those plans for it. And Brenda and I toured it a few years ago and it ended up being, it's a very beautiful building. And that was a vacant building that became dilapidated and it did hurt the values and everything because it was dilapidated. And after they renovated it and built everything out, I can't speak for if it increased property values, but it definitely did not degrade the area around.
Will there be any traffic studies for all this parking? I mean, if they come up with 60 units and they're supposed to come up with 150 parking places somewhere within that block, will someone say, no, the area just can't take that?
Well, that's what I'm curious about, honestly. I'm curious to see, like Ryan said, we don't have it yet. I'm curious to see what it looks like. How are they gonna handle it? I mean, is it just gonna be a Walmart parking lot?
I
You
don't
know, No, me neither, and I don't even live in your neighborhood, but I don't. I mean, I've known Dean my whole life. I've been at his house, I don't know how many times. I get right where he's living, and what's next to his house. And I think you guys just live, what, a house or two down from Dean, I think, don't you, or next to it? Yep. So I know you guys live too, and it's just, that's what I'm curious at, and that's why I wanna have, as transparent as we can with that, and to muddy the water a little bit, I think we should slow the traffic down on Fifth Street.
Well, we can stop signing. I'm gonna petition that anyway.
Well, I think we should, because the only reason Fifth Street doesn't have any little history lesson, the only reason Fifth Street don't have stop signs is because of the ambulances. When it was the hospital, so they could get to Lincoln Way as quick as possible, or vice versa. We don't need to do that anymore. We don't need to hammer down Fifth Street because we don't have an ambulance, so, we put stop signs up other places, but that's a discussion for a different day. But
So
yeah,
back to
I'm
my
curious
question,
too.
And the area cannot sustain that, do you go back and say, sorry, you gotta take a couple of units out, what?
I honestly
What
don't know if
happened?
we're even looking at doing a traffic study. I think it's gonna boil down to what it looks like when they give it to us, and then everyone's gonna have to take a look at it, decide, is this even doable? Is it a mess? And we're gonna have to say, hey, guys, you can only do 50 units, cause that's all you got enough parking for. I really don't know. I don't think anyone up here knows yet. I mean, we just don't have enough information. But also, to Steve's point, is and I don't know, have someone else said it too, that I think we have to move ahead with the zoning part of it. It's 3 readings, so it's not passed tonight. You know, we have to come back 2 more meetings to do it.
That an inconvenience?
Just keep going. This is what's that?
That an inconvenience?
What do you mean, doing it 2 more times? No, it's just,
It's a code
it's the
requirement.
rules. You know, we have to do ordinances 3 times, so it gives everyone a chance. Why we do 3 readings, it gives everyone a chance. It's like, hey, it's not done today, but it gives, now it's 2 more weeks before we have the second reading, and then 2 more weeks before we have the third reading. Well, then everyone can get more information. We can get more information. Everyone up here can get more information to say, you know, yeah, no, and it gives people more, like you guys, more opportunity to review, to look, to come back and speak every meeting if you want to. I mean, that's what we're here for, you know, so.
I'm just afraid after you rezone this, there's no stopping this.
Oh, they're stopping.
No.
Yeah, well,
We'll still have to,
Building anyway, even after.
yeah, they have to, they, just like I said, site plans and all that stuff that all have to be approved. That's where I want it, which Aaron said, we're gonna have another meeting. We'll have to have meetings about it again, so they're always open to the public, and we'll try to do our best to make sure everybody knows about it, so it's, you know, it's not a secret. We're not trying to slide it under the table. You know, I know people feel like that sometimes, but that's really not the case. And
Too big
We'll
to
make
slide
that.
under the table.
I know,
You
yeah,
gotta have a bigger table.
big table.
Did someone raise their hand back there? Dean?
I gotta see. What we got on my part, maybe Jim, what I'm gonna do. If that's gonna be such a profitable deal, and they wanna do that, maybe they ought to offer us a value for our homes and on our property. We got more market.
They approached me about offering mine up, they wanted me to donate it.
Oh, yeah.
Of course they did.
No, thanks.
Yep, sat down with them, they thought I should donate it.
I do wonder, you guys have talked about Capstone, but from my understanding, they're just the financial backing. So they've created Nevada Housing LLC. So it's just a small piece of the Capstone project, I guess. So if you are gonna bring us, their property from Waterloo, which is actually, I believe, what was presented in the first meeting that we had in May of
Last year.
23?
Yeah.
Was it May of 23?
Oh, 23. That's right.
I mean, are they even related anymore? Like, has this passed so many hands that the projects that you guys could show us are just not related to what we will really be seeing?
They're not passing hands. It's the same company doing the same development, and it's the architect for Cedar Rapids that's designing it for Capstone. They created an LLC to separate Capstone from this, but it's the exact same group. It's like someone owning 10 McDonald's and it's all the same owner, but they have different LLCs for each one of it. It's a liability issue for them, I believe.
Like to have somebody look into also, if you go through with this, what it's gonna do to our assessed values of our houses, I've already explained, maybe not correctly, but it's pretty clear.
Yeah, I mean,
Can we get a tax abatement within a 2-block radius of this to lower our taxes? Can somebody look into that?
I
We
mean,
can look into it. I don't know if
we can
do it
look,
or
we
if
can
how
look,
many-
we can talk to the assessor to see if
Our property values drop and our taxes go up.
if your assessments go down, then your property taxes aren't gonna go up. They'll go down. So, I mean, and your property values, that has nothing to do with the city. That's all the county. So we can talk to the assessor to see what he thinks your property values will look like with that building there.
If we look into it, it'd be nice to know,
Yeah.
what kind of effect it's actually gonna have on
Yeah.
a 2-block radius of it.
We can also talk with realtors in the area to see what
That's what I think.
they believe as
I
well.
think they-
That's what.
Three
Yeah.
realtors on what it'll do to my house.
You what? Sorry, I missed what you said.
They won't buy it. They don't want.
No, but I think a realtor will have a really good idea. I mean, and those guys sitting out there like Andy know what values are and you know what, if we have I'll just say Mark Olson, cause he's across the street. If he comes up and says, yeah, you know, make it tough for me to sell this house if it was that way. I would personally like, I'm going to get his opinion because I think it's applicable to what we're talking about here. If we talk to the county, I mean, I think it's just the due diligence we should do.
Jordan, is, I know it's not completely apples to apples, but is there a relatively easy way to get data for the surrounding properties of the project in Cedar Rapids to see what that did?
I think that's downtown, isn't it, Jordan? Right?
It may, like I said, it may not be apples to apples,
Yeah,
but.
Yeah, cause that one's kind of like our main street. It's upstairs. There's
If they're hooked up to, if they have Beacon, then we could easily be able to figure that out. We would just have to look at the historical data. of it.
Wasn't in a residential area, then that may not.
I mean, there's one that's downtown and then there's one that's off of downtown as well. The one that I was referring to, the school, that's not the one that's downtown.
Okay.
That one's in a neighborhood. And so, it really comes down to if they have Beacon or whatever they use for their assessor site, we'd be able to look at the data to see what values were before and what they are now. So, I mean, it is possible. I don't know if I'll be able to find that data, but I can always reach out to them and check with them about it.
Jordan, that, property in Cedar Rapids,
Yeah,
how many units are in it? It looks much smaller.
yeah,
than-
it is a lot smaller. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I mean, it is a lot smaller because it was a small school. And this is the hospital, you know, so it is a lot smaller. I don't know. Brenda, do you remember how many were in there? I
Also had an architectural historical value. What we're talking about here in the data does not.
Basically,
Well,
a building you're worried about being abandoned, so we pushed it off on somebody else.
we didn't, Story County. I'm not gonna throw them under the
Well-
bus, but you know, that was their baby to get rid
You
of.
know, you sold it for $1.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so basically it's not our problem anymore, it's theirs.
You could look at it that way. Yes, absolutely. So, well, I think we've got a bunch of notes that we've made here to try to get you guys some more information. We will do that. I mean, it's just. And then we can have that ready by the time
Yeah, I'll try to get
if we have,
this information. That way we can have it for
Yeah.
the next meeting.
yeah, and if Ryan gets those plans like he thinks he might, we might be able to have just a different time where we can come in and talk about just that, not do it during a council meeting, you know, and have some more information so you guys can look at it and tell your neighbors to come look and whoever's interested, so.
And I was gone last week when you stopped in, Kathy, but I would be more than happy to talk with any of you all about it. Same with Ryan. So if you ever have any questions, just feel free to reach out to any of us, the council members, mayor, any staff. We'd be happy to go through everything and talk with you about it.
I guess I'm just gonna kind of reiterate that, but I'm anxiously awaiting some of those answers and maybe a few more visuals just to kind of wrap around this a little bit, because definitely appreciate looking at reuse of the space in some capacity, but I definitely have some questions on with the parking and traffic and the many ripples that come off of a project with that. And I know we don't have answers to that tonight, but I just look forward to a little more information on that and moving forward.
Anyone else?
No, the Planning and Zoning Commission is recommending that we approve this rezoning request, so we're acting on their recommendation, correct?
Correct, yes.
So it's been through the necessary steps so far.
Yes, so far. Yep. Anyone else? I don't want to cut any.
And that's kind of, it sounds like you're pushing off almost. They recommended that there's no hurdles or objections to having it rezoned. It's not a recommendation. This is a good idea. I just want to clarify that. It's their opinion that it can be rezoned.
Yes, that was discussed during the meeting.
Yeah, it's not a recommendation that we should do this. It's a recommendation, there's no objection.
That's correct. The application is filled out that the property has the ability to be rezoned to R4 without any issues. So again, this is just a subsection of it. Like it's not saying yes, that this is, you know, that they're your vote today doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't say that the building can be built to whatever they spec when they send it in the first time. It's simply just to rezone the property in order for them to continue this process, to send us the site plan, and for our procedure that we've done for every project to continue. So,
Anyone else? I don't want to cut anyone short.
I just want to say, I'm gonna vote yes for this today, not because I support the end goal of this, but because I want to move it forward so we can see more detail of what they're doing. We still have 2 chances to say no as it's coming forward. And maybe they come with more information, and this meeting that we're gonna have is gonna bring out more conversations. But I just want to say that it's not meaning that that's moving forward.
Okay, we got a motion and a second, so let's vote. Whistle that song.
Sure.
And that first reading passed. That's gonna move us to 4B, public hearing for community development and housing needs assessment.
And Andrew is going to be speaking a little bit about that. This does have, this does deal with the CDBG that we're working through, so I'll let Andrew talk.
Yes, greetings, Council Mayor. Thank you for having me. My name is Andrew Collins. I'm with the Mid Iowa Planning Alliance. We are assisting the city in the application for community development block grant funding due later this week. As part of that process, there are a couple of public hearings that need to be had on the application, as well as some of the requirements that are part of that. One of them is this CDBG. I'll use the acronym a lot. Community Development and Housing Needs Assessment. And think of this not as a true community development and housing needs assessment. Think of it more of a summary and compilation of the things that are in your existing planning documents, like a comprehensive plan or other studies that you might have done, specific to the CDBG grant. So this isn't necessarily the same housing. This is not like a housing needs assessment that was discussed at the last meeting. That's much more comprehensive for the community. This is specific to CDBG. So there are a couple of things I need to read with this, and then when I'm done, I'll be happy to take any questions from council or anyone in the audience. So this community and development housing needs assessment, there are a couple of things with it. You have to identify items that will benefit low and moderate income persons, or LMI. So what we have in there for that is housing rehabilitation and public infrastructure improvements. Then we need to identify other community development and housing needs just for the population in general. That's encourage development of new housing, rehabilitation of downtown buildings, improve community connectivity, recreation improvements, and develop a trail network. And the last piece that we have to discuss is planned or potential activities to address housing and community needs. So it's essentially establishing and following an established CIP, doing housing rehabilitation, encouraging development of new housing, rehabilitation of the downtown buildings, improving community connectivity, develop trail network, and recreation improvements. So all of these items that I just talked about were determined by reviewing existing planning documents that are available, other studies that have been done, community input that were part of those processes, and just other engagement through communication with staff. So all these items are necessary, especially for LMI people, populations, that because housing and infrastructure represent a large part of costs to a household that's LMI. And so assisting in those areas will have a great benefit to those populations. For the community at large, in order to grow and improve the lives of residents, doing those activities would be beneficial. So that's it as far as the required readings that I have. I'd be happy to take any questions on this, and I will note, I do believe we have another public hearing on the actual application itself here shortly.
Council, anything? Public, any questions for him?
Anybody understand all that? You, me.
Yeah.
Are we gonna be doing, like, you said that this wasn't like an in-depth study, are we going to be doing something like that?
Yes, that will be a much more intensive process that will actually bringing in new and additional information for a variety of sources, and it'll be its own standalone document. This is part of the CDBG application. It's basically a one pager that we've put together to satisfy that requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? I'm gonna close that public hearing, go to B2, resolution number 061-2425, a resolution adopting a community development and housing needs assessment.
Move to approve. Second.
Dane and Henry. Any more discussion? Please vote. That resolution passes. We'll move to C1, 4C1, public hearing on the CDBG downtown revitalization application. Any same questions for anyone?
I have another set of things I need to read.
Go ahead.
Satisfy their
Go
requirement.
ahead.
This one will actually explain what the application is for. So City of Nevada is requesting Community Development Block Grant or CDBG funding to undertake a downtown revitalization project, which impacts the facades or outside of buildings of an estimated 8 buildings in downtown Nevada. So the need of this project was determined through analysis of physical conditions, which included a slum and blight assessment, finding that the target area, of which I have a map if anyone would like to view, as meeting the federal definition of slum and blight. The proposed target area and a map is have for review and is located within an existing urban renewal area as part of the City of Nevada's urban renewal plan. The nature of this project is the renovation of an estimated 8 blighted exterior street-facing buildings and 10 facades. So 8 of those facades being front-facing and 2 being side within the target area of this district. Where possible and relevant, Secretary of Interior standards for the rehab of historic buildings will be utilized. So the total project cost of the CDBG funded portion of this project is estimated to be $1,315,660. The city will request up to $650,000 in CDBG funds from the Iowa Economic Development Authority, payable as a grant to the city for the work to be performed. The matching funds will come from the City of Nevada, an amount not to exceed of $365,074.56. Private building owners participating in the project will contribute approximately $300,585.56. We anticipate the application of the CDBG funds will be submitted to IEDA on or before January 31st, this Friday. It is estimated that approximately 50.1% of the requested federal funds will be used to directly benefit low and moderate income persons. All project activities will occur in the downtown area. It is anticipated that no households or businesses will be permanently displaced or relocated as a result of this project. In the event someone is displaced, the City of Nevada will provide any assistance required by law to those impacted. No request was made for interpreter or other accommodations this meeting, and more information can be found by contacting my associate, Z Chen at Mid-Iowa Planning Alliance. I have his address or email address. I do have his address, but email address and phone number is available, but I also take questions here as well. That's more for after this public hearing process. So happy to take any questions anyone may have. Yeah.
In terms of what is considered within that district?
Yep. This is the target area.
We have another copy of the map.
No, we don't, but we can email it out and we'll bring it around, but it is. Sorry, I thought there was a question there. It's in the downtown. All the building owners have agreed to be part of this application. That's a big part of it, is that all the building owners would have to agree. And there is, this is not necessarily the final application. This is for this round, but after applied for and potentially being approved, changes do happen. I mean, it's part of this process across the state over the last 20 years. Some building owners come in, some drop out. So there is potential for changes this as well. But this is the part of this public hearing is to make sure that everyone's generally aware of the application and what we're looking at.
Questions, anyone else, anything?
Love
Okay.
it when we can get grant money.
Agreed.
I'm gonna close the public hearing then, and go to 4C2, resolution number 062, 2024-2025, a resolution to approve grant application and funding commitment of a community development block grant.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got Melissa and Dane. Any more discussion? Please vote. That's approved. Moves us to number 5, approval of the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Dane,
Second.
Steve? Any discussion, questions about the consent agenda? Nothing? Please vote. Approve, the consent agenda is approved. We'll open up the public forum. This is time set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than what's on the agenda. No action may be taken. Please keep your comments to 5 minutes or left. This opportunity for members of the audience to bring to the council's attention any item not listed on the agenda. Comments for 5 minutes or less. I just said that. Reading twice. Speakers may not yield their times to others. General rule. Anyone speak in the public forum? I don't have any tickets here for anyone, so if there's no one to speak, I will close the public forum and move to new business. 7A, a resolution number 064, 2024-2025, a resolution approving development agreement between Nevada Economic Development Council and Nearly New Consignments and the city of Nevada for a small business grant.
Move to approve.
Second.
Henry and Melissa. Any discussion?
I'm just very excited for this to come in.
Consignment shop. Anyone else?
We're happy you're here.
Yeah. Yes. So we've got a motion, please vote. That's approved. We'll go to 7B, ordinance number 1065, 2024-2025, an ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the Nevada urban renewal area. pursuant to section 403.19 of the Code of Iowa. And this is the first reading. Motion, please.
I'll move to approve.
Steve
Second.
and Dane. Any discussion? Please vote. That's approved. Moves us to 7C. Approved purchase of financial accounting software for the administration department. You want to discuss that first, or do I, looking for a motion?
Yeah, so this was something that we've been trying to figure out for some time now. Currently we use G-Works systems, and they are getting ready to go to the cloud or move to the cloud. And we have heard from several other communities that they have had issues transferring everything to the cloud, that their systems really aren't working. They're losing data, which is something that we really can't afford. Originally, we didn't want to go to the cloud, but we may end up doing that. I think Karen was trying to figure out if we were going to see any cost savings going to the cloud with our insurance rather than staying on our servers, because we do have plenty of server space for the information. Ideally, we figured that Civic Systems was going to be the best route for us. It is about $10,000 more expensive yearly than it is G-Works. G-Works is actually going to increase to higher than what we're paying right now. But Civic Systems has all of the add-ons, the modules that we need in order for our staff to do everything needed to get done, the yearly submissions that need to be submitted to the state, all of the payroll, the admin, essentially everything that all of our departments use on a regular basis. You have any more to add, Karen?
I appreciate all the work you guys have put into the analysis. I can see it. It's a complicated topic, and I won't even pretend to act like I understand it all, but it sounds like the one system stands out over the other ones. It's not the most expensive, it's not the cheapest either. But having a support system for when something goes wrong or you can't figure out how to do something is very important, and it sounds like that one has probably got the best options for that. So that being said, I'd make a motion to approve the recommendation for Civic Systems.
Motion by Steve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Dane? Any more questions? Discussion?
Just hope it's a smoother transition than some of our other software. that we're still waiting on.
I had a question on like our server. Do we have redundancy built into our server? Like, do we have like an off-site? If
We
we're
have-
not on the cloud, or do we have like?
We have several servers in different locations within the city.
Okay,
So catastrophic fire at City Hall, we not gonna lose everything.
Yeah, we have servers at City Hall. We'll have them at the new wastewater facility as well. And I believe we have a couple at the field house. Is that right, Tim?
We're all connected. It's technology.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's one thing
for
that,
this is redundant piece saved
Yeah.
on.
and then we also have to have separate servers for our police and we have a lot of servers, and we're constantly upgrading those to make sure that we have enough data and
Any more discussion? Then please vote. That's approved. Move us to 7D. Approve the purchase of 2 dump trucks from the Nevada Public Works. You want to talk about that, Joe? Please?
As you can see, we have 3 trucks that are 2015 models. We were on a rotation before I started, I guess. But we would like to get back into that. The wear and tear on these, the rust, everything, you know. We try to get top dollar for our trade-ins with these trucks. Also, we're moving to wing plows with these. Currently, we have 2 routes where there's not wing plows. So the driver's down, back, 4 times. We're hoping to speed up the efficiency of all this. One of them is a bigger truck, so we can use that on Main Street for hauling. Yeah, so Mike Ackerman actually spearheaded this, but he's laid up. And we had to get these ordered because we were told it was 2 years out for waiting on these trucks. New emissions coming in 2027. So we were also told that you might want to speed the process up to do this because they're not really sure what the new emissions is going to entail.
And I think you had one. Didn't you tell me you had one budgeted for last year?
We
that
did.
Didn't buy.
Yes.
So this
Yep.
is last year's truck.
Yes,
and
so
this
last year I had it budgeted, we kept the money in there, and then this year, we
And we're under budget.
yes.
Yeah, that's below.
That price there is outfitted. I mean, they're ready to go.
I wish we didn't have snow.
No, we haven't.
Well, I'll be looking for a motion for that.
Move to approve.
Second.
Jason, Melissa,
Thank you.
any more discussion? Please vote. That is approved. Moves us to 7E. Approve new fiscal year 2024-2025 retail cigarette, tobacco sales and use permit for Sundown Liquor and Groceries effective January 27th, 2025 through June 30th, 2025.
Is this a different one than we just passed? We approved alcohol.
We just did the alcohol.
Okay.
This is cigarette.
Got it.
We have a motion for that.
I'll move to approve.
Steve,
Second.
Jason, discussion?
We've not had any issues with underage stuff or anything that we know of.
Not, we're actually getting ready to do like our compliance checks here. So, we haven't had any issues so far.
Sounds good.
My question would be, why is it just January through June? Just for this year? Is that how they do it? 6 months? Or not a yearly thing?
Renew again in June.
Renew every 6 months? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, you think I'd know that, but I,
Fiscal, Brian. It's fiscal.
oh, it's fiscal.
Because
And
of
they
the-
added tobacco.
Okay, gotcha. Fiscal year ends. Okay. Any more discussion? Don't laugh at me, Jason. Hurts my feelings.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
No more discussion, please vote. That's approved. That moves us to reports. City administrator.
All right, so today we had a meeting pertaining the trail connection from North Sixth Street, well, north of the overpass, Sixth Street, to connect behind Oak Park Estates into Eighth Street. So we were awarded $100,000 grant by Story County. And so we will be receiving that money next July. And so we're getting ready to kick off and start all of that process for the designs for that. So there's a few things that we have to look into. If there's a way that we can eliminate some of the concrete and utilize the existing road that's there. There's also a retaining wall because it's steep and in certain areas as well. So there's a few things that we need to figure out, but for the most part, we kind of have a lot of that design done from State HR Green. Splash pad. Tim, Rhonda and I met with JEO last week and discussed some of the things that we were looking for on the splash pad. So they're going to be getting back more of the designs for us to review. And then I'm sure Tim will take that to the park board to have them review, and then it'll get up to you guys. But really this last meeting was mostly different designs from other communities, different fun activities that they can provide in those splash pads, which I had no idea that there are as many as there is. I mean, it's insane. But pretty cool. Still waiting to hear back from Verbio about the iron removal. If you remember, I was talking about them removing the iron from our sludge so we wouldn't have to get the sludge pumped out on a yearly or bi-yearly basis. I have not heard back from Verbio, but I'm hoping that their test came back positive to the point where they're able to use that iron, which essentially they would be putting all of that in their own totes and then hauling that off site. So they would be utilizing it in their process. So really hoping on that to come through, but I haven't heard back from Greg for Verbio. Wastewater. So I think our contractors are moving along. I always hesitate to say that because they are in June, it'll be 2 years delayed. So that's been really frustrating, but they seem to be moving along better and things are going a little bit more smooth. So, but tornado damage is essentially fixed for the most part. There's very small items that need to be fixed. Everything with the well is installed, so they're going to be testing here shortly, and we should be ready to move forward here shortly.
Do
Any
you have
questions?
dates for go live?
Well, it was March a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Is Harold here? No, Harold's not here. So, I will say probably June, I think would be a good time frame. June's probably going to be better off for us anyways, because we'll be able to have the natural biology rather than pumping something out there. So it'll be easier and the process will be a lot more natural. So June, hopefully.
Any other questions for Jordan?
Any update on the wastewater agreement with work?
So we did have a meeting with John Danos, our bond attorney, last Monday or Tuesday? Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, and went over kind of the things that we were worried about, and they shared everything that we should be concerned about on the bond side of things. I sent in all of my updates and sent that over to Aaron. So Aaron is working on getting all of those implemented onto the agreement, and then she's going to be sending that off to Burke.
No, those are done. We're waiting for updates from Davis.
Oh,
We're
okay.
just waiting for their feedback on, there's one section of the contract that talks about the financing piece of it. We're waiting for their red lines and then we'll package it all up.
For the restructuring.
Yep.
Anything else for Jordan? Okay, Mayor. My first one ever. Just been getting up to speed since my appointment, been to some emergency management meetings. Emergency management, we're gonna do a deep dive in February. I was talking with some of the other mayors. We're really gonna look at the homeless situation we have in Story County and see what the emergency management end of it can help. If that's more facilities, if that's whatever that is, we don't even really know yet. We just made the decision that in February, we're gonna just really dig into it and see what we need to be doing. And then, since the last meeting, they found those people in Ames, which is sad. So we can't have that. We as a collective group in that meeting, we need to do something about the homeless situation. I mean, we're not inundated, but it's a lot more than people think, I think, in Story County. So I don't have really a lot of more information. I will after the February meeting. Economic development, couple meetings, got another one tomorrow or Wednesday. Just getting up to speed. Didn't know all the meetings I needed to go to. Well, I had an idea, but a lot of them, so. And I just want to thank everybody for their trust and having me do this. And I told someone this morning, I'm just gonna try to be the mayor that I would want if I was a councilman or if I was a public person, so. I think my phone number's on the website. I know Dean's got it. Anybody can call me anytime, so. That's all I got unless somebody's got something for me. Okay, staff. Who's going first? Karen?
Remind you, next meeting will be the budget workshop. We ended up having to go back to department heads and ask them all to cut, find some trimming they could do, and they've done a great job of doing some of that, so hopefully we'll be ready to go next meeting, right after the regular meeting, then we'll have our budget workshop. We've done before.
Anything for Karen? Now's your chance. Okay. Joe?
Good job on the audit, Karen.
Streets, I should say, Joe, streets.
Well, if you notice, Scott and I got the sign now here working. Scott mostly. And then, we're just working on a sign inventory with our GIS going through. So if you see the truck driving around really slow and stopping, that's what we're doing. We're GPSing every sign that we have, recording it. Other than that, pothole patching and
Will we get a taller sign over at Central when it thaws out?
what'd you say?
The stop sign at Central?
Yeah.
Once it thaws out?
Yeah. Okay. Yep, that's on my plan.
Anything else for Joe? Anyone? I see a hand.
Street that goes down past that,
BE Avenue.
We've talked, yeah.
I think it's Dean and, we do a major project every year, streets. I'm pretty sure E's on that list, but it isn't this year.
Yeah, I don't think it's this year.
Yeah, it's programmed for, God, it's a couple years, isn't it, Joe? It's, yeah. It's there, it's just not at the top of the list.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a very heavily traveled street. and
Yeah.
it's- You kind of gotta go like this. when you
Yeah.
go through there. Because of the shape of it.
Anything else for Joe before he sits down? Anyone?
I want to make sure you got did you get your water bottle?
Hey.
Your glass?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
thanks, Luke. Library, Emily, right?
Yes.
Ah, Emily.
And my update is about the new director, so hopefully it will not be me too many more times here, but I'm happy to be here tonight. I just found out today that we have 2 more really great applicants for the director position, that are going to interview this week, with the board and then hopefully come in to meet staff soon. We are ready for a director to come in and help us. And then just a thank you to everyone who's been into the library. We appreciate your patience as we've been pretty short-staffed and figuring out our new normal. So that is all. Thank you.
Anyone?
Thanks for stepping in the meantime.
Yes.
No report, Mayor.
Nothing from Brenda. Marlis? Tim? Parks and Rec? Officer Seymour, PD?
Don't really have much going on either, which is a good thing, I guess, so.
Oh.
Sergeant.
Okay. Sergeant,
So,
sorry.
hey, whatever.
That's all right.
I actually need to apologize because the other night I called you Officer Seymour in front of my kids.
He's still an officer.
I've had a lot of people tell me completely different names that don't associate with it, so I'll take that.
Planning and zoning?
I'm good unless you have questions.
Aaron?
Very well.
Brandon, nothing? Legal counsel, Aaron?
You don't want to hear from me.
Anything else, anyone?
Oh,
We're looking for a motion to adjourn.
Oh, move to adjourn.
Jane and Jason, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. Meetings past, sometime this week, how busy.
Just come on over.
Whenever you guys are available. I'll stop by after work.
All right. Yeah, I gotta go to bed. I didn't see you.
Take care.